Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Broadland Cabinet meeting of the 18th of April. And actually, I'd like to start this evening's meeting just with a minute's silence, as we've sadly lost Danny Day, who passed away at the end of last week. And at this point in time, I think just our thoughts go with Craig, her husband, and her little boy, and their wider family. Our thoughts are with them. So if we could just have a minute's silence at this point in time. Thank you. So turning to tonight's agenda, so first item on the agenda is declarations of interest. Any declarations from anybody? No? Okay. We have no apologies or absence because everybody's here, so lovely to see you. We then have the minutes of the Cabinet meeting held on the 20th of March. Can I take those as a true copy and sign those off, or does anyone want anything added, changed, deleted? Is that so I can sign it off, or got an issue?
Obviously, that doesn't affect the minutes. That's just a question.
Okay, so if we sign them off and then deal with that under matters arising. So I'll sign those off if we're all in agreement. Yep. Okay, thank you for that. So Jonathan, you said you had a question. Come back to you.
Yeah, just at the bottom of page 7 regarding the business intelligence program, where the funding had been put in place by ourselves at Broadland, and we were waiting for South Norfolk to decide if they were going to put the match funding in. Has that been agreed now?
No, it hasn't been agreed yet at South Norfolk.
Is there any issue that that's going to cause, or any likely timeline that we're aware of?
So we will be looking at, you'll know we've got the Future Council's funding that we received, which is £750,000. So we're looking at also utilising that to help expedite that project going forward. We will be taking something back to SNC South Norfolk Cabinet post-election period.
Okay, thank you for that. So, okay, John. Yep. So we expect to see something come back. Hopefully South Norfolk Cabinet agree that, and that project will move forward in the appropriate way. We wait and see. Okay. That moves us on then to public speaking. I don't believe there's no public speaking. Looking around the room. No, can't see any non-cabinet members in, other than Martin, so they won't be joining us for any conversations. Martin, welcome as chair of ONS. Is there anything you want to add at this point in time?
Not at this point, if I just say a few words when we get to the relevant section.
Okay, if you can indicate to me, and I'll bring you in at the appropriate point.
Thank you.
Okay, so that moves us on then to page 15, being the Q3 performance report. Are you starting with this, Rodney?
Yeah, I'll pick up this. I'm Sally.
Okay, Sally, over to you.
Yeah, so the Q3 finance forecast spend is to the end of December, and that's for revenue and capital. It's a good position. There's a positive variance of 156,000, and that'll be transferred to the general reserves at year end. However, there are cost pressures of around 522,000 that we're forecasting, and that's due to the cost of living and inflation, but it's been more than offset by the investment income of 676,000 over budget because of favourable interest rates. On the capital side, we're forecasting to spend 14.45 million on capital schemes against a budget of 20.784 million. And we are forecasting to slip 6 million into 23-24. And that's mainly on 3 schemes: the Broadland Growth Project, the Renewable Energy Projects, the waste vehicle replacement schemes. And that's largely due to longer anticipated lead times than we were expecting. Have members got any questions on the finance section of the paper?
Okay, thank you for that, Sally. Is there anything you want to add at this point, Trudy, on that
No,
one?
I'll let other members have their questions first. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Any, Judy?
I just want to say, and Sally hasn't said, that I understand that on page 19, there's the projection of an adverse variance against budget of 405. That has now come down to 358. I think I'm right. So that's good news. Thank you.
Rodney's nodding, so that's always good news when Rodney's nodding. Okay, back to you, Trudy.
Yeah, just to say, I think these are in line with how when we did the budget and so on, what we were predicting there would be an underspend. And I appreciate this going into general reserve, but I think it'll probably be spent fairly quickly after that anyway on something I'm sure we'll find to spend it on. I won't put the recommendations forward because they all come together with the second half of the paper. So if that's okay, so we'll do all of them in the one, if that's okay.
Okay, so anything else on finance? No? So moving on, Corin, are you doing the other piece?
So moving on to the performance piece, your strategic measures update for Q3. So you'll see we've taken a new sort of exception-based format to this performance report this time round, with the summary focusing on the measures that need corrective action. It also includes a direction of travel, with the intention of enabling us to see whether quarter on quarter the statistic is improving or declining, and being able to put some proactive interventions in place. You'll be able to still see the strategic performance indicator detail in Appendix 2. With report card information there. So to provide a quick overview and summary, the majority of our measures are green and on track. So that's 17 measures that are on green and on track based on their target. We have 9 amber, so that's 9 that narrowly missed their target, and only 1 red where the performance missed their target. The red indicator relates to staff turnover, so a performance result of 14% this quarter against a 10% target. There in the detail, we can see there's some external market factors at play, with higher turnover rates being seen across the market, but also not an organisational wide reflective picture. The human resources team are doing some deep dives with service areas around that are seeing higher turnover to understand some more detail in some of those specific service areas. That's all for the strategic performance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Anything you want to add to this point, Jonathan?
No, I think obviously the new report, and we're trying to make it as clear as possible to show how the progress is being made. And it is true that quite a lot of the direction is in the right place. So I think this is a really positive report that shows that we are in a good place, but obviously we have got some sort of issues to work on.
Okay, thank you for that. So, Trudy?
Yeah, I think for me, I just wanted to point out, I listened to the ONS meeting which Martin chaired, and I don't think enough time was spent on the positives at that meeting. So I'd like to mention those, especially around the focus went on staff retention. Yes, it's 14%, but actually I don't think that's that bad, to be honest with you. And I just want to note that the tone of that meeting may make officers think they'd be better to go into the private sector rather than deal with the type of members that were in the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Trudy. Anything, Joe?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say how positive this all looks. The reporting is excellent, I think. I would just like to make a comment on the market towns, the percentage of vacant retail space. We've had quite hard trading conditions through COVID, and then the cost of living crisis. And our market towns are green in this, which is excellent. We haven't seen huge numbers of vacant shops. But I just wanted to say that our Business Builder programme, which offers business support, training, mentoring and grants, has been supporting our businesses. And that's noted at the bottom of page 51. Also on the external funding to support growth, we have signed the Memorandum of Understanding for 1.3 million for the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, which is excellent. We've also had money from the Norfolk Investment Framework to fund a clean hydrogen strategy for the Cambridge Norwich Tech Corridor. That is absolutely excellent. And I just also want to point out that in the middle of the comments, there is a sum of 40,652 which has been secured from the public sector decarbonisation scheme. That figure is incorrect, and sorry for the typo there. That figure should be £417,618. So there is a typo there, and can that just be noted in the minutes,
Sorry,
please?
could you just say what page that on?
Sorry,
what number?
apologies. It's page 52, and it is the external funding to support growth, which is measure number 14. And in the middle of the first paragraph, it says 40,652, and that should be £417,618.
Sorry, could you just say that again? Just the amount, so James
Okay,
can write it
so
down.
417,618. Which is a great improvement, obviously.
Yes.
So we're delighted with that. And also, I just want to note that we had significant investment the previous year, 2021-22, in the Broadland Food Innovation Centre, and we've had great success in finding tenants for that. So that project is going very well. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you, Joe. Thank you for pointing those pieces out. And yeah, as you say, the Broadland Food Innovation Centre is a phenomenal asset that now operates across the region, because it's not just for Broadland, it actually operates across Norfolk and Suffolk. So it's a unique thing that we have positioned in Broadland, and well done to the team for getting that in and up and running, and all that investment that came with it. Best part of £10 million from what I can remember. Judy.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say a few words about the waste, as it features in several of the measurements, and publicly thank the team for all the hard work, especially getting the food waste rolled out across the district in the last 6 months. Right. I just want to draw attention to people who study the figures in great detail, that some of the waste figures will be Q2 figures, not Q3 figures. And this is because government doesn't produce them, and the ones that are really published across the country, they will be they're the government ones, so they run a quarter behind, which is a bit annoying, but we just have to be conscious when we're quoting government figures or our local figures. And so that means on Q2, it doesn't make on page 30, it doesn't make a point that these are Q2, that we will, in Q3, we had the food waste introduced. So that will make these figures better going forward.
Yeah,
And-
something like 300 tons more recycled, isn't it?
Well, it's quite a lot more recycled, yes, yes. And those eagle-eyed people may have noticed there were two figures given for fly tips, and the lower one should be taken notice of because that is the measurement that we have used historically. So it's not, well, I don't need to go into what it's not, but it's the lower one, which is
So it's the one on the table, the top of
page-
page 30.
But one, yes,
Yeah.
that is not our normal measurement. There's some extra bits put in there,
Okay.
which I'm happy to explain if anyone's sufficiently interested. So, and no, I think that's all I want to say about this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Drew?
Chairman, if I might just pick up something on the staff retention, because actually I'm pleased to inform Cabinet that we continue to have a good rate of strong applicants applying when we do have vacancies. You'll know from being in the building, we've got some notable returners back into the one team, which is always a really positive thing to see. As a local authority, we're amongst very few that actually publish their churn rates. And equally, post-COVID, there's not an industry norm. We are working with colleagues in the Eastern region to establish that regional norm and understand what that is. But to absolutely reassure members, we continue to have strong field of candidates and as soon as a good employer. Thank you.
No, thank you for that, Managing Director. That's good to hear. And as with any good organisation, we find ourselves with a dynamic culture, a progressive culture, one that wants to work, strives to do better, wants to achieve, and that sounds like it's attracting the right people to it. Sadly, that may also mean some people don't fit with that culture, and therefore they will move on. But yeah, that's where we are. But it's really good to see the way in which the one team has come together through a difficult time and then also bounced back out of COVID and does such a phenomenal job for us. So yeah, no, that's really good. So thank you for that. Fran, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I mean, following on to that, I think it's important to flag up, Measure 24, which is on page 59, around planning decisions, which are still being made within statutory timescales, although there's challenges there. So we know there's challenges there, and we're doing a lot to actually recruit new people and also grow our own through apprenticeship scheme, which I'm really pleased about. So although, yeah, there's challenges, we're still doing very well indeed. So that's just one thing I want to say. But going back to page 53 and 54, I think it's really important to remind ourselves about our discretionary services for vulnerable people and how we're going from strength to strength there, working within the Health and Wellbeing Partnership. Only a couple of weeks ago, we had a hardship innovation workshop with lots and lots of our partners from the voluntary sector and statutory sector as well, looking at other projects which we could put in place to support people even more. And this is with external funding. This isn't with our own money. This is external money we're bringing in to do that. So I think that's really important to flag up. And we know that through, I mean, within the report here, we refer to social prescribing in secondary care. And we know from initial figures that we are saving the NHS an awful lot of money by the services we're putting in. And we're putting we just agreed to the Health and Wellbeing Partnership to spend quite a large amount of money, but nonetheless to do a very in-depth evaluation to show the worth of that and how we can support people even more. So I think that's really important to flag up. But also, as I say, with Measure 18, the number of residents we're helping to support to live independently. The disabled facility grant is we got additional money this year, which is always welcomed, so we can do more. But figures year on year have improved immeasurably, not only for the DFGs but also for the Handy Person Plus. So I'm really pleased where we are with that, and I can only see us doing more really to support our most vulnerable. So thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Fran. Jonathan?
Yeah, I think for me, the measures obviously that I'm looking at from page 44, the reference 3, the staff satisfaction, and then staff absence and the apprentices and graduates. We've got a lot of positive there. They're all green, and we have got that situation where the workforce is working really hard and they're working well together, and we've got an absolutely brilliant team. With the staff retention, there are opportunities out there for people, and I think there is a clear sign from us that we develop people well here, that they're being part of the one team that gives them the great skills, and yeah, there are people who are moving on to more new and exciting projects, and I think that is something that we can be proud of, that we've got people that do leave us going on to do wonderful things elsewhere because of the start they've had from being here. We are obviously moving to the new Horizon building, which will be an absolutely amazing place for staff to work. So they will then, will be even better, more of a choice for people. And I think that will be how we move forward. I think it is that will be seen as a wonderful place to work. And I think it is, but obviously we are seeing this staff retention issue, which is because there is so much opportunity out there. I think there's lots happening and everything like that. And just on measure 2, which is the customer satisfaction, although it's amber, I feel that we're all heading in the right direction on that. There's a lot more information available for all departments to see how they are dealing with the customers that they have, and I think residents are understanding that we've got changes that are being made positively, and they can work with us, and I think that is all really, really positive. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Jonathan. Trudy?
Yes, thank you. Can I just first say my name is spelt wrong on various occasions within the delivery measures. I'm spelt with an I, not a Y. I think I've got an officer that's spelt with an I. So right at the end, it's spelt correctly. So if that could just be corrected. But with regards to collection rates is what I'll start with, actually. We're historically one of the best in the country anyway. That's not changed. You can look at measure 7 with regards to the collection of council tax. We've even managed to collect, or the team have managed to collect 492,000 in prior year's debts and recovered that. And with the business rates, working with economic development, 1.9 million of support has been awarded to businesses across Broadland. So I think that's got to be applauded. We're back to sort of pre-pandemic levels. So we're used to high performance, and that's continuing. And the other one I would say, which I've mentioned actually, I think at the last council meeting, is regards to the benefits team. Performance from them is amazing. And you can see on page 57, it's measure 21. The team are now utilising the low-income family tracker to find residents in the system. So they're actually actively going out there and looking for people they can help. So I think those 3 are the highlights of the measures that come under me. And then I'm happy to then propose the recommendations, which are all the way back up at the beginning of everything.
Page 34.
Right. Bear with me. Yep. So I'm happy to propose the recommendations 1 through to 4 on page 34. Recommendation 8.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Jonathan. Okay, anything from ONS, Martin? Before I have my say.
I fully appreciate where Trudy was coming from on there. That was the way the meeting went. I did try to point out a lot of the good measures, and also as part of the minutes, one section of it, the chairman noted the council was doing a great deal to tackle the housing problem, and remembered the members about the significant sums set aside for the purchase of temporary accommodation that have been recently agreed. And finally, in summing up, the chairman noted that the great majority of the performance measures in the report were rated green, and that the council should be applauded for achieving these results. For example, the increase in the household waste recycling and the number of planning decisions made. And I thank the staff for this excellent performance. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Martin. Yeah, again, it's disappointing sometimes when the wrong emphasis is put on some of the things that have been done. And I say, I'd just like to thank Corin for pulling this together in a different type of way. I like it. So it now summarises where we are, what's happened. It, in the right way, flags up what's wrong, but also highlights what's needs improving, and then also what's so good. So we've got one measure that's got an issue, and that's being fixed. We've got 9 measures that are work in progress and aren't far off being there. And then we've got 17 measures that just show how good our team are, because they're all green. They're overperforming in those areas. And don't forget, some of these targets we put in this performance report are over and above what is the norm, because we want it to be better. So it just shows how well, as a team, this council is supported by the one team, and how well this council performs and continues to do so. And just picking up on a few of those points coming out of the reports that haven't been so far, although I will repeat one, to do with food waste. You know, we said as an administration we would bring in food waste and we would promote it and roll it out as far as we could. We've done more than that. We've now rolled it out right across Broadland. And in so doing so, we have not had to put up council tax to do it, which is just a phenomenal thing to have done. Also, you know, we haven't taken our eye off the ball. So things like empty homes has continually dropped over the last 4 years. And now for last year's rate for 22 stands at 265 homes. I mean, how brilliant is that? Yeah, it's one of those easy wins when we know people are looking for new homes or looking for a home, that we can get them in that place. Also, the delivery of affordable homes. It's just amazing what has been achieved. But so far, Q3 report says 361 affordable homes, and linked to that we have our local letting policy, which means a third of those are going or available to go to local residents, which is got to be good. So I thank you for the report, and it's well received. But I would just like to pick up the risk register. Sorry. Just a couple of elements for me on the risk register while I try and find it. Page is that on? Oh, it's on appendix 3, isn't it? Just got to flick through all of these. Yeah. So again, like some of the elements on the risk register, but a couple of pieces that are concerning me, and again, it's just trying to get those in the right place. So I guess my question is more as I would ask CMLT to look at some of the scoring mechanism in that they're doing, just to see whether they feel that's appropriate. So if I look at risk BDC, can't read it, M3, which is to do with the cyber attacks. He says, trying to see it. Sorry, I'm just going to have to enlarge this. No, it's not. If I look at M5, that's the one I was looking for. Yeah. If you look at the rating after all the mitigation, it's M4. Let's find it still says it's a 3. So we are likely to have a successful cyber attack. I'm not sure that's what you mean, because I'm pretty sure from what you've said and the work you and your team have done that that's not going to happen. But it's rated as likely. Just so I would ask you through CMLT to perhaps revisit some of these things where they're saying they're likely to happen, where they're probably, with the mitigation that's been put in, aren't going to happen. Maybe less likely to happen. Okay, I'll stop there on that one. So you'll be glad to know. So we've had any other questions before I wrap up? No. Okay, so we've had the recommendations that are on page 34 proposed and seconded. All those in favour? Thank you, James. Okay, so that moves us on then to item 8, which is the Broadland Health and Wellbeing Partnerships Health and Wellbeing Strategy. I did say that very slowly, Jamie, but yeah.
I'll speed up next time, Chair. Sorry.
Yeah, you're all right.
Like gazelle.
Leap into action. Absolutely. Imagery's vivid.
So good evening to you, Jamie. Good evening, Abigail. So who's presenting? Abigail. So over to you, Abigail.
Thank you. So the strategy in front of you is the culmination of working with our health and wellbeing partners to draw on their local data, experiences and knowledge. It lays out the direction and impact the Broadland Health and Wellbeing Partnership intend to have in the next year, and partners will also be taken through their organisations to be endorsed. The 3 priority delivery areas it identifies are mental health and wellbeing, access and prevention, and resilient and healthy communities. The cost of living crisis and COVID-19 recovery are also recognised as cross-cutting focuses underpinning the work the partnership intends to do. So in terms of delivery, we've set up a new structure which will allow us to deliver the action statements in the strategy, which is made up of 3 priority delivery groups, so 1 for each theme. Key partners have come forward to lead these, from the police, the ICB, councils, Voluntary Norfolk, Adult Social Care, Active Norfolk and Citizens Advice. So having these people committing to driving the delivery shows the really wide range of organisations that have actually chosen to invest their time in meeting the ambitions of this strategy. Progress will be monitored through monthly steering leadership groups in which the portfolio holder for communities, housing and planning sits, and will escalate any barriers, risks and opportunities to the partnership every other month. We're also aiming to grow our presence by working with the Place Board to develop place-based communications for ultimately better outcomes for our residents. So we're recommending that Cabinet endorse this strategy as a partner organisation in the Broadland Health and Wellbeing Partnership. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Fran?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I'm really pleased to see this document. I mean, the Health and Wellbeing Strategy is a document that we've worked on with our partners across the Health and Wellbeing Partnership, but also with South Norfolk too, because there's a big crossover really with our partners there. So it's been statutory partners, it's been the voluntary sector, the charitable sector, et cetera, et cetera. So I mean, it's been really co-produced to get to this point. And there's a real buy-in, I believe, from our partners. As I say, we've had external funding to take forward some of the projects, and I really look forward to that over the next year. Earlier on, I referred to the Hardship Innovation Workshop, which we undertook, and we're now looking to evaluate the projects that were put forward there. And I really think that we can show some real value for money there for our residents to give them even more support than they previously had. So for me, I think it's a really good document. I think there's a lot of numbers in here, which I should have checked with you, but I think I suggested that they come from Norfolk Insight, the percentages. Yeah, I think so, yeah. But it might be good to refer to that in the document, to be honest. That might be a good thing. I also wanted to thank Karen Strandy, who was an enormous part of putting this together. And I know she's just retired. So I just wanted to thank her too, because I think it's really important to recognise our staff when they do good work, whether they're here or not, frankly. And say, you know, she did a great deal before she left, and good luck to her in the future, really. And on that basis, I'd like to propose a recommendation 7, as it is on page 95. So thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Fran. Joe?
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Abigail, for explaining that. You did say that the portfolio holder will be updated monthly on sort of changes to this. I've spoken to the portfolio holder and he said this is an organic document and there will be changes. And I understand there could be sort of more stats put into it that might interest other people. Just put into the document to put things in context more. But I just wondered, when will the document be revisited and evaluated by Cabinet? I think it probably should come back within a year or something, and that needs to be probably put into the recommendation. I don't know if I can ask the monitoring officer. Thank you.
Sorry, Fran, did you want to answer that?
If you wish, yeah. Within the document, actually on page 108, it says that there'll be a formal review at the end of this year, and with a view to refreshing the strategy in full at the end of 2025. I think that's really important, particularly this year, with the changes that there will be within the Integrated Care Board, and obviously following on from the Hewitt review too. So there will be substantial changes, I think, within the integrated care system, of which obviously the Health and Wellbeing Partnership is an integral part. So I think it's really important that we recognise that this is a dynamic document, and obviously following on from the NHS and the changes that we will experience there. So we need to see how that affects us, and we will review it at the end of this year. Thank you.
So picking up on that, Joe's suggestion, I would guess it probably needs to be on the forward plan March, May, some point next year, I would guess.
No, this year. 2023. This year, back end of this year.
Yeah, but you've got to do the review, then report it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you need to give the team a chance to do the work. You're not going to get it on the 1st of January, Fran.
No, you put the pressure on.
And unless I've misunderstood something and someone is working over the holiday period. But no, I would suggest is that a reasonable timeline? Yeah. So I mean, if it's available early, you can always bring that forward. But I think picking up Joe's suggestion of getting it on the forward plan is a good idea. Yeah, Joe.
Does that need to be written into the recommendation, Chair, or is Cabinet happy that we go forward with it on the forward plan?
Yeah, we just put it on the forward plan.
Okay, that's lovely.
That'll come back at that point.
Well, with that in mind, I'd like to second the recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Joe. Trudy?
Yeah, thank you. I think each time we've sort of talked about this paper, it is the evaluation is the really important part for me, because hopefully I'm sure there will be really good stuff there, and it may be something we either want to grow, or continue, whatever, and it's really important to see the effects each project is having. Thank you.
Fran?
Thank you. Yeah, on that point, at the last Health and Wellbeing Partnership, we were talking about the funding we've got for the next 2 years from public health, and actually ring fencing part of that money. It's not been agreed yet, but the next Health and Wellbeing Partnership we'll discuss that again. It's actually ring fencing some of the money for evaluation. Now, whether that will be external or we can do that in-house, dare I say, between maybe ourselves and other partners, that's not been decided. But it's absolutely something we want to build in to the structure going forward, because there's no point us merely doing things and not knowing if they work or not. It's really important either way, whether they do or don't work, but we need to know. And obviously if they do work, we need to then work even harder with our partners to perhaps leave us some cash from them to continue with these projects. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions related to that? Again, the point Joe made about some of the report, I think just again in its future iterations, maybe want to just go into the stats a bit more. So for example, if I can find it. So there's an element on page 100, the second paragraph talks about the average life expectancy in Broadland is higher than that across Norfolk and England. Brilliant. So we're doing some great stuff, but what is it? And is it the same for male and female? Just that little bit more analysis. I know this has been brought forward now, but there's a couple of places in here where it's like that, and it'd just be useful to know just how good Broadland is. So yeah, that would be useful to have in there. So thank you for that. But the themes work well, and as I say, it links back into the vision and what we're trying to do and trying to achieve as part of being part of that partnership. So it's great stuff. Okay, so the recommendations are on page 85, which had been proposed and seconded. All those in favour? Thank you, James. Okay, so that moves us on then to item 9, which is at page 109, which is the contract award for centre management and business innovation support at the Broadland Food Innovation Centre. Evening, Emily. We were told you were somewhere else with George, but you're not. And you've changed. Because last we heard you were in white coats. Yes, for want of a better phrase.
Yeah.
Anyway, nothing to do with this report. Moving on.
So by now you'll all be familiar with the Broadland Food Innovation Centre. So this report is requesting delegated authority to enter into contract with a successful supplier following a formal tender for the centre management and innovation support service at the centre. So as a bit of context, the centre management provider operates the Broadland Food Innovation Centre on the council's behalf. So this involves things like tenant management, keeping the centre in good order, managing our utility bills, managing paid services like accessing the conference room and the test kitchen facilities on our behalf. And the business and innovation support role provides specialist food and drink support to the businesses in our area. So there's no cabinet meeting in May, as you'll all be aware, and therefore delegated authority has been requested to ensure that the contract award is in place and completed before the centre management and innovation support contracts expire in June and October 2023. The absence of a contract award in time to maintain these services at the centre would negatively impact on our customer experience and also expose the council to significant commercial risks associated with the management of contracts and leases at the centre. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you for that. Joe?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for that, Emily. The Broadland Food Innovation Centre, as we've heard previously this evening, is going really well, and we're all really pleased with the success you've had, especially in attracting new tenants. This is a really important paper. We obviously need to continue the centre support, and it's great that we're also going to be funding the business innovation support as well, because that has been really well used by our food and drink businesses, I think. So that's absolutely excellent. But I was just going to ask, in 3.7, I note that there is a budget of 935,000 for the next 5 years for the two roles. Is that correct, Emily?
That's the current budget allocation, yeah. So what that does is it covers the centre management contract, which includes the centre manager and the support person to cover the centre manager reception when they're out doing business activities with the tenants, plus the food advisor role. So that's 2 full-time roles and a part-time person to cover reception cover as required.
Lovely. Thank you for explaining that. Yes, I didn't realise that there was a part-time role involved in that as well. So thank you for clarifying that. With that in mind, I'd like to go to the recommendations, and I'd like to propose the recommendations 8.1 and 8.2 on page 112 to Cabinet. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Trudy?
Yeah, just double checking on that. Does that mean?
Please do.
Yeah. Just double checking the 935. Is that definitely going to be spent, or is that the maximum?
That's the maximum budget allowance that we've included in the budget at the moment. So yeah, that's the threshold that we've included within the budget. That's the maximum that we'll spend essentially.
So we wouldn't aim to go, because that's actually quite a lot of money when you work it out. that's quite a high salary. I know we had trouble before about the centre manager, that it was an expensive role to recruit to quite early on when we were talking about it. But I'm just wondering, I mean, I appreciate we've got to do it and I'm going to be happy to second it. It's just a clarification around that money, really. Are we going out to advertise the high salary straight away, or are we going to try to have a lesser one? And also, if we don't spend it, what would we use the rest of the budget for?
So the budget has been built based upon the costs that we've incurred to operate the centre up to now. So we know that it's a realistic budget based on what we've spent up to now. We're competitively procuring the contract so that we can get the best value price. But the reality is that the pool of people available to deliver the contract are quite limited. And that's one of the reasons why we haven't gone out to recruit internally for the post, because we know it's going to be challenging to recruit to, and we know there are specialists out there. Of course, we're doing everything that we can to mitigate the costs. One of the ways that we can do that is by reducing the scope, so looking at the food advisor role. But I think, as Joe's already mentioned, I think that's a really important part of the centre. And it's also a really good way that we can reinvest the money generated by the rental income at the centre to continue to support our food and drink businesses. And we also know that's a constraint of the funding that we have anyway. If we do get to a position whereby the budget exceeds the costs that we need to incur, so we have some residual money, what we'll do is we'll allocate that to the reserves for the centre. So we'll put that money into the maintenance and management reserves to cover any repairs that might happen in 15 years' time, that kind of thing. So.
Okay, thanks, Emily. And as I said, I know that's been a challenging role through the project. So, yep, I'm happy. We really do need the roles, so I'm happy to second that. Thank you. Okay,
thank you, Trudy. Jonathan?
I was just going to say, I think the roles are, we do need to get the best people in. This is one of our flagship, this is what we can show that we can do in Broadland. And I think this shows that this is an amazing project. So we will need some really special people to run it. But we have got that point where we know that obviously building up the business is what we want to do. So I'm all for sort of saying that, there is that higher salary on like an on-target thing. Obviously, the more they earn, the more that we obviously can be paid. And I think that is something where that is what we want to see, that all the units used and everything really for businesses moving forward. So I think that will be a really positive thing. But yeah, I think we do need to make sure we do get the right people.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions, points? Sorry, just for clarity. So when you talk about the budget, this is not part of the council budget. You're referring to the money being, or the budget for the centre, and where the centre is now operational and it's generating income. This is the pool, the budget that comes from that.
That's right. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Apologies. That was probably a little bit unclear in how I explained that.
The language is fine. It's just
you're
recognising the differences. That's all.
It's the operating budget for the centre, which is completely separate to the council's budget.
And that links back to then the business plan for the centre, which again periodically we will see and review and have updates on. So thank you so much for that. And I'm sure the portfolio holder for finance will. With the portfolio for economic growth, we'll look very closely at the recruitment side of that when that comes through from the director of place. Yeah, he's smiling at the back there. Sorry? It's 2023. Yeah. Any other questions? No? Okay. So the recommendations are on page 112 and have been proposed and seconded. All those in favour?
Unanimous.
Thank you, James. So that moves us on then to item 10 on page 118, the forward plan. Is there anything in the forward plan for anybody? Judy?
Could I just check with the monitoring officer that I thought the RIPA policy went to the last council?
You're correct, it did. I think that was the week that we had cabinet on the Tuesday and then council on the Thursday, wasn't it? So, yeah, you're correct, that did. She won't be seeing that again.
Fair enough. Any other questions or points on the forward plan? No? Okay, well, we'll note the forward plan and take that forward. That moves us on then to item 11, which is the exclusion of press and public. I move that the press and public be excluded from the meeting for the remaining items of business because otherwise information which is exempt information by virtue of paragraph 3 of part 1 of schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972 as amended by the Local Government Access to Information Variation Order 2006 would be disclosed to them.